Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the bell.
Yo, be a father. If not, why bother, son? A boy can make them, but a man can raise one. Be a father to your child. Be a father to your child.
Live and direct. Here we
That's
go.
It. We're in.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Breaking news, fellas.
Oh shit.
Oh.
Breaking news.
Uh-oh. I like how you saved that shit too. You acted real nonchalant earlier.
I have an announcement, and I actually have the name of the potty training book now.
Oh, come on.
Oh shit. The man, the myth.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thought you'd like that.
Yeah.
Diaper Free Baby. That's the name. That's the name of the book.
So this is the 5-month-old Bible that you guys were working off of?
Yep.
Can you, Manny, or somebody, can we post that on our socials and
we'll get
place that people can find that, and let's tweet a link to it too, so
okay.
I can buy it.
Yeah. I'll send that over to you, and then I guess just jumping right into it. This is kind of I don't know if it's what kind of topic you'd call this, but I was on the plane the other day and ended up watching this documentary called Three Identical Strangers. You guys heard about that one yet?
I've heard about it. Yes, I've been wanting to watch it.
Nah.
But it was like an experiment, right?
So yeah, I mean, you don't know that it's an experiment until later on into the movie. But whatever, yeah. Spoiler alert. but essentially, it's these the three identical, I don't know, twins. But I guess twins is not the really. there's more than two, so
are they
triplets? Yeah, triplets.
Yeah.
Sorry, so identical triplets, and they all got adopted by different families, and then ended up finding each other just randomly. And but it all turned out to be some kind of experiment that the adoption agency and a scientist was running, and
because no one really is in different social statuses. That's the experiment, right? Part of it.
Yeah, I think the idea was at the end it kind of revealed that the concept was about is the outcome of raising children nature versus nurture. Mm. You know what I mean? So it's like if you have these triplets, and apparently they all came from, I think their parents had some mental illness, and a study was showing with some twins and triplets that that all the kids kind of can have, just like we might inherit things from our families, but it turns out like these triplets all suffered in various degrees from mental illness, passed down from the families. But some of them did it in had varying degrees of it, and a lot of it seemed to be stemming from, the nurture they were getting from their families. And the interesting thing to me about it was, the one in particular, they all had 3 different families. One guy, he didn't really get along too tough with his dad. The other one was kind of more, had a okay relationship, but it wasn't like they were best friends. And then the third guy, he had a super tight relationship with his dad, and that dad ended up, once the brothers all found each other, that dad ended up embracing all 3 of them, and he was like the glue. He was like the glue for everyone. And that's the guy that basically had, he had mental illness, but he had, I guess the easiest time coping, and a lot of people are attributing it to the father, who was, just kind of all in the mix with him. And spoiler alert again, the other one who ended up committing suicide had the worst relationship with his dad.
Yeah, I heard it starts off all peachy and interesting, and then it goes dark. The documentary.
Yeah, very dark.
So it's a documentary.
Yeah, and it was like they were like a media sensation when they found each other and all that stuff, in whatever town they were from.
What's the name of it again? 3 Perfect Strangers.
Three Identical Strangers.
That's a sitcom in the 70s or 80s, buddy.
Without the three.
I don't know.
Without the three.
Balky.
I used to do a mean Balky impersonation. I forgot it now. Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, so that's just that nugget of just like how important especially, considering what we're talking about, how important the father was for the kind of mental sanity of
does the
kids.
Documentary focus on the father and not the mother on purpose?
They talked about the families, but they did zero in on the fathers and the relationship that the fathers were having with these
because
kids.
They were boys?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what.
They didn't like specifically say it, or maybe they did, and I don't remember, but they definitely seemed to kind of go in on the relationship between the son and the father with everyone.
That's that's crazy. I'd never heard anything about it. So now I'm very intrigued.
I had some stuff. Actually, I think they talked about it on CNN. They had the directors, and they had a little media blitz about the doc.
What do you guys think of the overall idea of nature versus nurture when it comes to kids?
I mean, I personally believe that the simplicity of a child feeling loved in the home, no matter what the financial circumstances or what the circumstances are around them, I think plays a huge part in the development of that child into adulthood and what they in turn, give to the world and give to their kids and whatnot for it. Because I've seen and I'll give you perfect examples. Like there's kids in that come from war zones, that there's total hell around them. And these people are, young adults or adults, and they seem like perfectly well-adjusted, fine people who seem happy in general. And that has to be that for the most part, their parents were very loving with them and were protective of them and helping them, cope with whatever the hell was going around them.
So I'm kind of in agreement, but I also question the importance of nature. Not that it's not important, the significance, I guess, because while I think nurture, if I had to, if I'm weighing it, I'd say nurture plays a humongous role in a child's development. But if you ask me, does nature kind of get completely overshadowed? I don't think so, because you see oftentimes, like for instance, in my case, right, I have a stepdaughter. I can sense at some point in her life, even though her biological father hasn't really played a huge role in her life, I can foresee her gravitating, trying to figure out, what that side of the family is, and I think that's just nature, trying to connect the family, right? But as far as development goes, I got to give it to nurture pretty much any day of the week.
I mean, are we understanding what nature and nurture are in this? Like, are we all? Because I don't know. I feel like Manny's perception of nature was different than from what I was thinking.
Well, I think it just, so I think going back to the documentary but just the definition in general, I think nature is more about, you are who you are via the genes you inherit from your families versus you are who you are because of your upbringing and the people surrounding you and, at raising you. It's like, are you who you are because no matter how well you're raised or how poorly you're raised, you still inherit these genes from your family, and that's how, this is how your dad was, and so this is how you're going to be no matter what. Or is it, you have these things in you, but the nurturing aspect is super important because it could steer you away from, not focusing on some of that stuff if it ends up being bad, like mental illness or alcoholism or whatever.
Right.
I mean both are important, obviously, but
yeah, I think it's a percentage thing, and then there's obviously special cases and anomalies that go against whatever the percentage towards one thing is. But I think the nurture part of it is more of a percentage of that's going to affect the child versus whatever genes or whatever, is being passed down through their family, because depending on who's around that child in their development can help them cope with anything that's been thrown at them through their, DNA or whatever. So, and I think that makes a big difference. Just like you said, the one kid who had the bad parenting or whatever ended up committing suicide. So that right there tells you that they all had the same mental illness passed down to them, but one was able to kind of like navigate or cope with it better because of the nurturing versus the other.
Yeah, I mean, so like this kind of, I mean, you guys are already talking about it, but I think mental health, nurturing children plays a huge role in how their mental health develops, right? And so, I mean, I'm not saying anything fucking out of this world here, but you see it play itself out in a lot of places in society, and now it's in vogue to be really cognizant about mental health, and a lot of these, what we would have considered non-issues as we grew up, right? In a lot of cases are significant issues, and people just don't know how to cope with them. So like when Cypher was on the show, he kind of just went in on how his paternal situation kind of just came up, and he had a breakthrough. But I think nurturing helps combat. Let's assume this is just my belief. Let's assume your biological parent suffered from depression. Let's just say, right? And I think I don't necessarily think that's genetic per se.
Right. It could. I think there is probably
is
in some cases, but I think there's obviously cases where it's just whatever your circumstances are depress you.
Right, but then if you're nurtured properly or in a great situation,
you might be more prone to depression. Is what it could be.
That could be
passed down.
Right, but I think you're stronger mentally if you grow up in an environment that caters to helping you develop your mental as well as you can. It helps you kind of combat that kind of stuff.
Well, let me ask you guys this question. What do you guys feel personally? Do you guys feel you've ever dealt with or have any mental health issues or have had any mental health issues? I mean, if you don't want to disclose it, that's quite all right.
No, we don't do that here. We don't we don't hide. I mean, personally,
it could be a simple
Personally, I can't say that. I've never had anything that I've been treated for. And I'm unaware of having any mental issues, but I think I'm insane to the degree that I think is normal and acceptable.
Right.
Outside of that, I haven't really had any issues.
You okay?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'd say when I was younger, I could be prone to being moodier, I guess. And maybe, not really depressed, but I guess more just as I got older, like just kind of learning confidence and I guess really learning some of the things that maybe I missed out on by not having, like a father or a strong father figure in my life, or in those years. So I think some of those things missed me, and as I got older, I was like trying to figure out whatever. It could be, talking to girls, could be just self-esteem, whatever, some of those things that maybe come from a strong male figure. And so I'd say that's probably where any kind of moodiness or depression came in, because it was just, self-doubt, that kind of stuff. But definitely not to the point where I felt like I needed to have therapy or talk it out or anything. It was more just kind of learn to deal with it,
Well, I don't want to go down the rabbit's hole of talking about this too much, but I definitely felt or have felt throughout my life that I've combated mental health issues. Hence the name of my company, Crazy Hood Productions, hence Who's Crazy, all of that. What I've tried to do is flip it, and I've always tried to tackle my brain and self-analyze myself and kind of flip it, so it's just like I'm tackling it head on and then making it something positive versus something negative. But directly into this conversation, again, without trying to get too deep into things, I didn't have my father around much. My mother also suffered from depression and attack and panic attacks and anxiety.
Yeah, same here. My mom had a lot of anxiety, worry, and she definitely passed that stuff to me, which it took a lot of years to just shed feeling, those kind of anxious feelings about money and all that kind of stuff.
It's terrible, man. And especially being a little kid and being raised by a single mother, single parent of mother, and she's having panic attacks, which if anybody who doesn't know, the person feels like they're dying. They feel like they're having a heart attack. Like my mom would stop in the middle of the highway and call like not call because we didn't have cell phones at that moment, but she'd stop and be like, we need to get to a hospital, or at home she'd call an ambulance. And I'm thinking as a little kid, oh shit, my mom's about to die on me. And it would happen repeatedly. So that's obviously taking a toll on me. And also, and this is going to sound pretty crazy, and I've said it a couple of times, and I've always been like, man, I'm going to get reported to somebody. But when the Columbine thing happened, like I had identified, like I was older already, but I could identify with what those kids were thinking and going through to a degree. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of kids have those thoughts and ideas because as young adults or kids, whatever, we have broad imaginations. And if you start getting either bullied or you go through hardships, and especially for kids growing up without one of their parents, maybe, so they don't have, like for me, my father wasn't there to help me navigate some of these things. You start to like just imagine how you would tackle these problems. And sometimes it has to be like this grand idea of like how you're going to be like the superhuman person doing all this crazy stuff. And you're going to, rain revenge on everybody that's bothering you, bullying you, pissed you off or whatever. And you do have all these like crazy thoughts of what you would do and how you would do it. And so I kind of understood what those kids were coming from. Now, going back full circle to what we're talking about, the difference for me in a lot of this and why I think I went different path, and hopefully I continue that path in my life, is the nurturing part. Because although my mom had those issues, and although she couldn't, since she was dealing with it, she didn't really know how to help me deal with it. The only thing my mom would ever do is try to throw me at psychiatrists or psychologists because she thought the divorce of my parents and everything that had happened with my dad was going to be an effect on me. But really and truly, I felt those doctors was a negative thing because we didn't have a lot of money. So she's throwing me to like, whatever, like a free psychiatrist, by some college or university, and then throw me to this psychologist and this program that's doing a test on how to and then they're like running tests on me, like weird things. And I think all that shit backfired and made it worse for me. So she really didn't help in that department, but just all the love that my mom showed me and then watching just her dealing with everyday struggles of raising a child. And then recently my grandma's been in the hospital. I've always known this throughout my life, but my grandparents were a rock for me as well. My parents, my mom's mom as well, but my dad's parents, because they were his parents, were very special to me because they were so good to me. And even when I moved away from LA, I could call them for anything and ask for anything in the world. And I feel bad for them now in life, but I would be like, if a computer, was all of a sudden popped, I want a computer, and that shit, brand new at the time when computers were, were coming out, it was like expensive, and they bought me a computer and I didn't even know how to use it, like MS-DOS, like an asshole. Right. But they would buy me anything I wanted, to a degree. When I was in LA, they would, take me shopping, take me to Toys R Us, just really caring and loving. And I think those things, when times got tough and thinking of crazy shit to that I might potentially do, or being violent or just doing certain things, those were the differences for me to not do these things and try to like take this stuff and tackle it in a different way. And hence art was my expression, and music, and trying to do something with music and art. And I think it made a huge difference. And for my mom, like for example, I didn't want to do anything so crazy that I would destroy, like my mom had been through so much, divorcing my dad because she was Catholic and the family didn't believe in that, and trying to prop herself up to raise me, that I didn't want to make her look bad. And just that love to me, it just made such a big difference, thinking of family love. And so I do think it's super important, man.
Yeah, definitely agree.
That might have been way too deep and way too crazy.
No,
I might get reported to Homeland Security now.
No, I'm with you. I think I had unconditional love growing up as well from my mom, single parent experience. So a lot of similarities with you, E, just in terms of going through those trials and tribulations, but that knowing that you were loved, I think moved the needle in the right direction. Where because I was getting into all kinds of shit, but I was able to steer it in the right direction just because I knew that was ultimately I was coming from a good heart and a family from a good heart. So let me follow that path.
I'm not saying that life will be perfect and you're not going to make mistakes, because obviously I did a lot of crazy things and stupid things growing up, but I think it's just enough to save you from these humongous mistakes in life. Yeah. And like you said, you like me, I've always said to myself, when I have my children, I'm going to give that the same way that I got it. You kind of want to continue, the golden rule, do unto others what you want to be done to yourself. And I feel like the love for my family, I want to return the favor and continue that love to my child and then keep growing that.
Yeah, think about the parents who got the shit beat out of them, and unfortunately there's a lot of them that carry on that tradition, and because they're like, well, fuck it, that happened to me, so this is what's going to happen to my kids, versus I got a lot of love, so I'm going to continue to. I think it's just I think more parents probably need to get educated on just like how to kind of decipher their path, their upbringing, and
break the cycle.
Yeah, and just kind of figure out what's, really think about like the kind of kids you want to raise, or at least the kind of situation you want to try to create, as opposed to just winging it.
Yeah.
Yo, this shit started off heavy.
All right.
I'm depressed now. Something crazy.
Wait. Let me just
Who's crazy, motherfucker?
So let me give you. I was talking to my dad. My dad lives in Orlando, and he, right before we got on, and he was telling me, like, I hadn't spoken to him in a couple of months, and he's like, "Yo, the podcast you guys are doing is fucking." First, the dude says Popcast, Popcast, and he's not the first one. I heard a few people so far, like they happen to be Dominican, say Popcast. So I think that's what the Dominican folks are gonna call it, Popcast. But
nice. We should.
But he's telling me, like, giving us props and stuff, and he's not the technical type. Like, he's got a smartphone, but he might as well have a flip the way he uses it. But he latched on to this. Like, he listened to this one, he listened to my other podcast, and I was like, I fed him the links, thinking whatever, he's not gonna jump on it. And he's been listening. He's like, yo, he goes, every time I see somebody, I tell him, hey, check out my son's podcast so you can learn how to raise your kids. I was like,
we're going to get sued. Like, you taught me all the wrong shit.
Not even that. I'm like, yo, Pops, you're going to get smacked in the mouth. Relax.
How to raise your kids.
Yeah. So I'm telling people what to do. He's like, nah, man, I be bullshitting. But yeah, so, at least our podcast is doing all right down there.
Well, Pitbull called Drink Champs Drink Champions to somebody. Oh, he's been killing it with the Drink Champions.
There you go.
All right. Well, now's a good time, since we're in a good mood. Let's we got Premium Pete joining us tonight, so let's call him up, and he's got an interesting story, and his dynamic is not the norm with his kids and how he's raising them and been able to raise them. So let's bring him into the mix.
Hello.
Premium Pete.
What's up, sir?
What's up, Premium?
Man, thanks for having me, man. I look forward to talks like this. I feel like there's not enough of them, to be honest with you. When you said something about, like, anything that has to do with parenting or fatherhood or anything is, like, something that I always have tried to push to talk about more, and so it's something different, too. Like, I feel like, we live in a world where there may be a certain amount of saturated things, but, I don't think talking about being a father, being a parent is ever saturated.
I agree. And actually, I'm familiar with listening to your podcast, and I know you've had those Father's Day episodes, and you've always, bigged up being a dad and how important it is to you. And, you've got your presence over presence, IG, and just your whole motto. So before we get into kind of your story, and give us a little background on that and how you brought that out.
Which one?
The presence over presence.
So presence over presence. So first of all, anyone who is first time, hearing that, to understand this, your presence is the best gift you could ever give your kid. You know, I've been around some of the brokest people. I've been around some of the wealthiest people. And I've learned it doesn't matter. Like, I always use this example. I remember one time, rest in peace, Combat Jack, we were sitting down with little Boozy. And Boozy was like, oh, man, when I was away, my kids had iPads, they had iPhones. I was like, yeah, but they didn't have you. And he was like, yeah, you're right. And, you know, so I say that to say this, you know, we live in a world where a lot of us growing up and, you know, if any of us, you know, live different lifestyles where you put your life on the line or you were hustling, you know, you actually think, you know, you're doing it for your kids or your family. But at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're risking a chance to ever be in their lives. And what I've learned is from being away, from being around a lot of, you know, different parents, from being a separated parent, you know, from being, then coming back and being a regular parent again, because there is a difference, and I'll explain that if you want to know. You know, I've learned that, like, you know, presence is everything. Like, you know, I've dated girls who had issues because they had no father in their life. I've been around young kids who had issues because they had no father in their life. And that's why I say that presence is everything. So I remember, like, you know, I missed my daughter's first day of school because I was locked up. And, you know, I always wanted fast money, you know. I grew up, you know, I grew up in Coney Island, Brooklyn. And, you know, I'm an Italian, but I grew up in Coney Island, Brooklyn, which actually shouts to Coney Island for making me understand the melting pot at a young age. And then I moved over to, like, Bensonhurst. So all I seen was, like, you know, mafia guys or guys with Cadillacs and flashy. So all I ever wanted was flashy stuff. And I thought materialistic stuff was all that ever mattered. And, you know, I remember at a point in time where my father was a great dude. And I really didn't look up to him. I looked up to these other guys because, you know, I felt my father was, like, just a corny guy. Like, he was okay. He just stale. And these other guys were more. But meanwhile, I look at it now and I tell my father all the time, my man, you're a tough guy. The guy who worked 3 jobs and the guy who busted his ass and the guy who, you know, the whole, you know, working guy, tough guy, anybody who listens to Bronx Tale. But to bring it back in, Presence Over Presence was I'll never forget, you know, I started that. And it's more than just, say, an IG page. I really, you know, I started that with the hopes of trying to do something. But I was so busy in my life doing so many other things, I didn't really move further with that. But I was okay that people worldwide were living it. I get emails all the time. I get tweets all the time. I get DMs all the time from people who show me or, you know, are living it. I never wanted to make something where it was mine. Like Presence Over Presence should be mine. I never forget when I think they had that show with Eddie Wong. What's his name? What's the name of that show? I forgot that show.
Fresh off the boat.
Yeah, Fresh Off the Boat. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they quoted Presence Over Presence in there, and I've had a bunch of tweets. People like, oh, they're copying you, and I never look at it like that. You know what I mean? It's like, even like, you know, shouts to, you know, EFN, like, you know, even like I've plenty of times I tweeted out Drake champs, or plenty of times, like, you know, I seen you guys tweet out what we do. I'm never like that. So the point I'm trying to make is, like, I want it to be open. I want people to live that lifestyle and they are. So here we go to bring it full term. I was away and missed my daughter's first day of school. I was hurting. I was like, damn, man, you know, it's like, you know, here I am thinking I was doing something right, and I really wasn't. And I'll never forget, I was sitting down with this ASAC counselor, because when you're in there and if you're hustling or if you're, you know, you have to go to, like, counseling services. And I remember her saying, you know, your best thinking got you here. And, you know, I'm sitting full of a room full of different people from different areas and all different same styles. And I remember when she said that, it stuck with me. And she's like, you know, and she said, you know, your kids don't, you know, they can have gifts, but they don't have you. And that's why I said your presence is worth more than, you know, than any present. And then I said presence over present. And I kept on pushing it. So when I came home, I kept on pushing it because, again, and, you know, I'll let you guys get into it more, but, you know, I mean this wholeheartedly, man. It's like, it ruins people when they don't, you know, have someone in their life. I mean, let's go back and look at the Will Smith clip, you know, of, like, you know, like why don't he love me? You know, you know, even like the toughest guys will say, nah, it's all good. I'm good. You know, he's a piece of shit. But if you like, look, I sit down in any of my episodes, I go over parenting. I go over fatherhood. I go over like anything. I've sat down with some of the different type of people, meaning like I'm from entrepreneurs. When I start going into it, people are like even I'll give you an example. When I sat down with Scott Storch, and I was talking to him about not having a father, and he was like, he said that he couldn't hold down food for the first 4 months, you know, and you know when they got divorced, and his father wasn't in his life anymore, he had to move to stay with his mother. I'm just saying these things are true. So anyway, to make a long story short, your presence in your kid's life will be the best gift you ever give them.
Hey Pete. So you got you have a teenage daughter, right? And then you have a young son now. And then you mentioned at the beginning when we started talking about being a separated dad versus I forget what you used, but basically you have more of a kind of traditional dad lifestyle now, right? Sure. And
I'm getting to live my dream.
So with your daughter, I know you were locked up for a little bit, and then when you came back, what was that transition of being with your daughter or reconnecting with her? What was the dynamic? Were you guys living together, or were you having to visit? What was that dynamic for you?
Yeah. So I was married to her mother, and things were going a little south. But when I was away, she. It's funny. Anybody who's away, for some reason, you could always try to finesse your way back into a relationship, especially with your kid's mother. So, I wound up coming home and, understanding that I needed to make right. My daughter was visiting me, had no idea. That type of shit that type of shit made me feel very hurt. And I felt I knew I needed to do better. So when I came home, we tried to work it out, me and her mother. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but I'm glad because it ended off better than it did the first time. But I've learned right there and then, and that's where, again, I tell people, all the time who go through this, because there's a lot of people going through, relationships don't last, man, because people don't put in the work sometimes or deal with this, So, I remember, first time being a weekend dad. I'll never forget this shit. And I pulled up to her house to get my daughter on a Friday. And because that's a typical, I don't want to say, that's a traditional, you go Friday, you drop off Sunday.
Right. This is the weekend dad, right?
Weekend dad, yes. I'll never forget the first time I had to pick her up. I went to go pick her up. I was happy. I was so happy. I was like, and it's different because, mind you, again, and this is where I'll get into where you're being a different dad because, I'm so excited to spend this time with her when, I'm not saying that a father who stays home with his kids isn't excited to spend the time with her, but he knows he has tomorrow.
Yeah,
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if he's busy, he may say, exactly. Yeah, unfortunately, that's what we do sometimes. I'm not saying every father. I'm saying, but sometimes we do that. You know what I mean? And so I was so excited to pick her up. I'll never forget. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. She was young, and I'll never forget. I remember calling my sister. And this is why I believe in family so much. And I called my sister, and I was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" She's like, "Did you pick up, Skylar? That's my daughter." And I was like, "Yeah, I picked her up." And I was like, "What are you doing?" She's like, and she had my niece was about 4 years older, and she's like, "Oh, we're going to the zoo." And I'm like, "Zoo? Can I come?" Like, because I needed some guidance. You know what I mean? Real talk.
Right.
I really needed some guidance, and we went to the zoo and we had a great weekend. And I kind of was able to have my sister be like, help me learn, and then like a coach, yeah, for sure. And then the only thing is like when Sunday came, like I was crying when I dropped her off. I walked away, and I had tears in my eyes because it didn't feel right. And and so how I started to help with that was, and this is again with the presence over presence, where I would tell people all these years that I've been speaking to, I would say I wasn't happy with being a weekend dad. No, I did not want to be that. Right. So on Tuesdays I would stop by and do a pizza date with her, or Wednesdays I would come by and grab ice cream with her. You know what I mean? Like, and even if it was just for an hour or a half hour, and I don't want to get too much into the personal of a man or a woman who's dealing with this, but when you're a separated dad, man, it's like you're rebirthed, and you get like all this like free time, but you really understand you don't have any, and you got to work or bust your ass, and then you have to share time for save time for your kids, And then you know who always gets forgotten about? Yourself.
Right.
You know, and so it's tough, man. And I remember having those moments, like, you know, I remember being a young father, and I'll never forget, my daughter went to the potty, and I put this on Twitter one time. That shit went like crazy. And I remember, like, she you know, she went to the bathroom, and she went to, you know, she took number 2, and it came out blue. And I was bugging. Like, I remember I called my mother. I was like, what the fuck is going on? I need, like, you know, and then just only to find out that she ate a blue crayon.
Oh,
nice. But I was bugging because I was like, man, you know, keep in mind, you know, and I still say this to this day. Like, my daughter is 18 in college. My son is 3, going to be 4. You know, wow. I'm pretty good at this, but at the same time, there's no booklet. There's no manual. You know, we don't know. You know, like again, and you know, I don't mean to be all over the place, but you know, this is right up my alley as far as like heartfelt, and I always want people like listening, the first time fathers to be, or somebody in the struggle right now who's listening, to understand that they're not alone, and to understand that you know that you know there's no perfect father, there's no perfect, you know, there's no booklet, there's no manual. You know, it's like even like. And I said this the other day on Twitter. It's like funny how we relate to everything on social, but I don't know, maybe it's just me. But you know, I was with Charlemagne, and he was at a book signing, and he was talking about his anxiety book, Shook Ones.
Right.
And he's mentioned how he had parenting anxiety. I was like, fuck, I never thought of that. Like every day, like I'm you know, look, every day I say to myself, did I do enough for my daughter? Am I doing the right thing by her? Can I do more? Can I be better? Because let's be real, and maybe this don't happen till you get older. But you know, you got to think of those things. Like, look, you know, like I'm confident and I'm special to myself, but I'm not perfect. And can I be better every day? Can I be a better father? Could I approach things like, you know? And at the same time, our parents weren't always the best people. Like, look, I'll give you an example. My father. His name's Angelo, okay? He's an Italian-American, but his father is a super Ginzo greaseball. He's from Italy. His name's Nunzio, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think this guy hugged my father? Never. So you know what happens? Most of the time, I'm not saying they don't do this, because we're a generation, I feel like we break chains. Right. And we do it different. But my father...
Old school cycle continues a lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure. I love my father, but I don't... He never really like hugged me and told me he loved me, you know. But you know, it's like nowadays I see like people with their kids, like, and you know, I go to swim class with my son and I see these fathers like just so happy. That shit makes me so fucking happy, man. I remember being in a dance class with my daughter and I was the only guy there, and I was looked at funny.
Yeah, it's a different time. You see more of that inclusion and parents, specifically fathers, being more engaged. What and this is, by the way, Pete, this is Manny Digital.
What's up, Manny?
I noticed just, you know, listening to your podcast, your daughter played a significant role, obviously, in your life, just her being you know, born, but even as far as your health goes, can you tell us a little bit about what happened 7 years ago?
Oh, I did.
Yeah, so it's funny. Funny you say that. You know, I smoke cigarettes, and people make fun of me. That's my close friends make fun of me. You know, I smoked Newport 100s for 17 years. Only Newport 100s. I'm gonna tell you how real I was. And I'm not a person who kisses my ass, but I'm gonna tell it on this show. I remember being away, and you couldn't get menthol. Okay, and I would not smoke until I had menthol. Now they had this tobacco called Top. And it was like upstate, they would have Top, or you had to roll your own. And if it was regular, or somebody's like, I'm like, yeah, I need a cigarette. Someone's like, I got a cigarette. Oh, it's menthol? No, it's not menthol. I don't want it. So I was hooked to menthol like crazy. And I'll never forget, my daughter used to ask me to quit all the time. And, you know, sometimes I'll be honest with you, I want to go back to what I was saying too, and I'm on topic, but I want to go back to what I was saying, like, you know, we're out hustling and thinking we're providing for our family, but remember what I was saying, but we're risking, right? Yeah. Think about it. How many of us just smoke with our kids in the car? Even young, just smoke. You know what I mean? That's not cool. I mean, but I'm not trying to be all, you know, prissy about it, like, oh, you know, you said, but when you really think about it, right? You know what I mean? So the point I'm making is like, you know, there's a lot of things we do, you know, and then there's some parents who are very on the down low, and I get that. You know, you go to the shed, smoke a joint, you know what I mean? Okay, God bless.
Right.
You know, some people are more open. But I remember my daughter asking me to quit. And to be honest with you, I was addicted. So I would say, yeah, I'll quit tomorrow. Come on, I'll quit. Don't worry about it. Come on, just do your homework. Don't worry about me. You know how a parent, is sometimes. And,
Yeah.
and for a long time, I remember, yeah, sure. You know, because at the end of the day, we're a parent. What the hell are you talking about, kid? Like, you relax. But a kid is, you know, they're the smartest because they don't never, ever go by what you say.
Mm-hmm.
They go by what you do. And, you know, I would never quit. And I remember one day she told me, I told her something, and she said, why should I listen to you? You know, she's like, you know, I actually stopped smoking. You can't even do that. And I was like, whoa, hold on a second. Like, you know, she was like 10 at the time or like 11. And I was like, you know, and I don't know, again, it brought me back to when I remember when I came home and the drive and desire I had to be a better man for her. And, yeah, man, I quit cold turkey. I'll never forget, man, that first day I quit, my ears were so fucking hot and red. I went to bed about 5:30 in the afternoon. And I remember telling myself, like, yo, when I wake up tomorrow, hopefully it's a better day. And it was a better day. And, you know, some people, anybody listening who you know, maybe some people were told different. I used candy in the beginning. And it worked for me. Some people say it's a different crutch, but to be honest with you, we all have crutches. Mm-hmm. And if you could get less on your crutch, to me, it's not a bad life. But yeah, my daughter, you know, and there's a lot of things, Manny, that she made me do. Like, there's a lot of girls that I used to mess around with that I knew that I stopped messing around with because I knew that they cared more than a booty call. And I was like, damn, man, even though I probably can't stop this, one day, one day, I just don't want to be that for a girl. Like, I don't want to lead her on for a piece of, for some sex, you know, because I know she wanted more than that. So, like, I remember, like, you know, calling her, and it's crazy because when I did that for my daughter, even though I know that maybe that doesn't get reciprocated to her, say, you know, but I did that because I was like, this person isn't, like, I'm just looking, I don't have time for her. She wants more than that. Why am I leading her on?
So you're trying to set an example, you know, for your daughter, in a sense?
Yeah, but at the same time, you know, it's so crazy. The girl wanted me even more after I did that. So I don't know what, you know, I had to change phones on that.
The truth will set you free, Pete. All the time.
She wanted that ultra premium, Pete.
Yeah. No, you know, I was trying to give her the, unleaded. You know,
the regular.
But we say regular. Yeah. So,
hey, Pete,
yeah.
Your 3-year-old, is he? So do you live with them? You guys live together?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Sure. You know, and that's what I was saying earlier. I get a chance to do what I always wanted to do. You know, the fond memories and moments I've had growing up, I remember was eating dinner. You know, again, I come from a big Italian family. You know, somebody got a promotion in their job. There was 30 people over the house eating. You know, let's make some pasta. Let's make, you know. So it was special. You know, and so you know, I've always wanted that, and I had it very, very short amount of time with my daughter. Mm-hmm. You know, and you know, so yeah, I'm getting to. I feel like I'm getting. You know, I get the best of both worlds. I got a daughter, I got a son, and I'm getting to like have those moments where we can sit and eat dinner and watch them. I'm getting to do it all over again. And to be honest with you, it's special, man. You know, I forgot who told me. Somebody told me, like, you know, it's like maybe, you know, I don't remember who told me, but it's like a reset button. You know, it's like you like you have like a, you know, kid at this, you know, late, you know, like they have a big gap. They're 15-year gap, you know, but
yeah, it's a big jump.
You know, it's like you get to do it all over again, man, and be better. You know, and that's nothing against my daughter. I always try to be better, but you hopefully to be better, to be a better father.
Let me ask you this: does she, obviously she loves her brother, but has she expressed that? Has she ever felt any kind of way that so her brother gets to have this time, this kind of normal being raised by his dad time versus, you know, her missing out on some of that? Has she ever talked to you about that at all?
Yeah, you know, it's a great question. You know, as good of a relationship I have with my daughter, you know, she's also a teenager still, and also goes through her emotions, and I have to be very mindful of them. That's why I tell my friend that I've been friends with a long time. He has a daughter that's 6. He's like one of those guys that like he feels it out. He's like, okay, this is parenting. Okay, I got this. Or if he says, okay, this is how you own a home. Okay, I got this. But you don't realize. I try to tell him, parenting ain't like that, man. Life ain't like that, because you know what? You could own a home and then your water heater could blow the next day. Or I explained that like when you're a parent, there's like Meek said it, and it's true. Even to parenting, there's levels to this shit.
Mm-hmm.
The 1 to 5 is a certain way. The 5 to 10 is different. Oh, wait till the period comes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The 13, the dating, it's like you know what I mean? It's like I get to an age sometimes. It's like I gotta pinch myself. I saw my daughter's boyfriend, and he goes to the same barber I go to. He's a great guy.
Man.
Shit.
He goes to the same barber I go to.
That's terrible.
I just treated him like, I didn't even tell him. Like I did like a real sneak job. I said, how much does he pay you? And I gave it to them, and then they took care of it. But it's like I never thought like that. You know what I mean? And even like just being mindful. And I'm not going to lose your question, Keta, but even being mindful. Like like I have a lot of friends that own different businesses, and my daughter's like, oh, I want to work here, and and I can get her in, and she has to show what she could do, but. Like this one spot, it's like a fitness spot, and my daughter, she's very pretty, she's very fitness, and I'm like, yo, when I send this to like certain guys, I'm like, yo, guys are pigs, man. Like I'm a guy, and I remember being a pig, but I'm like, I remember telling them, like, yo, I'm gonna send you this picture. Look at my daughter as somebody I'm asking you for this job. Don't look at it as anything else. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I know it's crazy. It's like, guys, man. It's like, I don't know. So, but back to what you're saying. It's a good question, because I have to be mindful of that. There's times where I argue with my daughter. I remember telling me to go back to my family, and I'll be honest with you, it was very, very hurtful for me. Sometimes I feel like they forget. That's why I say, and again, presence over presence, because kids will never remember how much you bought them. They'll remember the times, I remember my daughter doesn't remember anything. Like, she'll be like, you didn't do that for me. What? I bought you that 20 times. Like, but they won't remember. Like, it's like you got to show receipts on them. And, but they remember the moments. But so, she does sometimes give me a hard time. Like, as, sometimes it's tough raising a girl where they have very moody.
Yeah.
But, it's a transition, like she didn't want me, and this fatherhood podcast, I mean, I don't know what your goal is, but while Premium Pete's going to be on, I'm going to try to be insightful for people. My daughter didn't want me to have another kid. And that's why, hence, I have a 15-year gap. But I thought about it. When she became about 14, I remember her telling me, like, yo, Dad, I'm going to skip this weekend, man. I'm going to hang out with my friends. And I was lost. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. And I remember just being like, and I don't want to call myself an industry guy. I'm a guy. I'm in New York. I'm a person that is in many circles. So,
you're a Renaissance
I was
guy,
able to do my, I was able to do my dirt during the week. And then the weekend came, I was all ready for my daughter.
Yeah.
And, get my rocks off during the week, get my time, you know what I mean? Whatever it is. And I remember when, so I say this to say this. I love my daughter with all my heart to death. But if I would have listened to her, I would be a lonely man, And I had to, it's funny too, because it's like I felt like a real New Yorker. And what I mean by that is like, I remember when I met my lady at that time, and you want to have I don't want to have another kid. Why? I don't know. It's like sometimes it's like being in New York, and sometimes we just say, like, no, I don't fuck with that. And then somebody's like, well, why? And then when somebody asks you, like, well, shit, I don't really even know why I'm saying I don't fuck with that. But I'm just, and I remember being like that. But I'm glad I made that choice, and I explained to her that, you know what I mean, that I want her to have somebody. And I tell her all the time, like, I speak to my daughter. Maybe this is bad, but I speak to her like I could be gone tomorrow. And what I mean by that is, I tell her, like, look, when I'm gone, I want you to take care of each other. I want you to take care of him. I'm going to make sure that you are okay in certain areas, but I want you to, to have each other, and I mean, it's tough, but
do you think
sometimes.
Do you think you speak to her like that just from a sense of, I don't know, guilt, or you have like, there was a gap of time you weren't able to be with her? Is that, you think, one of the reasons?
Absolutely. One of the reasons is guilt, but the other reason is it changed my life being a father. Like it did, man. It sometimes I hate saying cliche shit because it's corny, but it's fucking true. Like, she got me out of the trouble. She gave me I always say in life, and I say this, you need a reason. You need a reason. Like, people, how do people get off drugs? Like, they have to do it for themselves, but sometimes they need a reason. How do people stay home and stop getting in trouble? They have to change themselves. Some don't, some do, but you need a reason. Like, she was the reason. And no matter what I do, even to this day, like, I still feel guilty sometimes, but I got to make sure that, I'm making a sound decision. But when there is some guilt there, but at the same time, it's also because it's love. It's like, it's like, I can't explain how powerful the feeling of being a father is. You know what I mean? Sometimes I look for the words. And that's why I said in the beginning, like, I appreciate shows like this, and I salute you guys for doing it. I wish I had the time to do something solely for it. It's meaningful. And maybe it may not get the most clicks, but it doesn't mean it doesn't get the most traction and doesn't help the next person.
I mean, at the least, we're doing this as a peer group for ourselves, because just like you said, there's no handbook to this, and we all have children of different ages and different stages. So we were having these conversations without recording it. So we were like, might as well just put this peer group out there because there might be other people that need it as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I wish there was more, man. I wish there was like stuff we could do even in person. Man, whenever you guys do a first live show somewhere, hopefully in New York, if I'm out there, I'd love to be a part of it, because I feel like we need to have this discussion more, and fellow fathers need to feel like they have each other. Like I get hit up all the time. I sometimes jump on the phone with strangers, just to people tell me like, yo, I can't see my kids. What could I do? Or, I've had people call me and, the kids won't listen to them. And, I mean, I don't know what the hell I am sometimes. Like, I call them like, what kind of sneakers you like? All right, I'm going to send you a pair, okay? Stop being mean to your dad, man. He cares about you or some shit, because whatever. It's like we need each other. And sometimes we're afraid to ask questions, but it's not easy being a parent, man. Yeah, it's not easy going through it alone.
Or just ask each other for help. Guys don't like to ask each other for help a lot of times. So
yeah.
So yo,
that's
Pete,
why it's important what you guys are doing, man. Yeah.
To kind of round it out on a good upbeat note, just a little hip hop fun fact. Your son's granddad, or one of his granddads, is the great Milk D, correct?
No, actually, my son's uncle is Milk D.
Oh. Okay, uncle, right? Yep.
His grandfather is the legendary Nat Robinson.
Oh, Nat Robinson. Okay.
Shit.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you can go into more and more of that family. But yeah, definitely. Milk D's is his uncle. So and it's funny because her I'll never forget when I met. So I've been friends with her brother for a while, her other brother, who looks exactly like Giz, actually. And I didn't even know, like, he was one of those kids, he doesn't even tell you those type of things, you know what I mean? So I remember being at like a picnic, and I was like, what the hell's Milk D doing here? What the hell is this thing doing here? I was like, I'm introducing my brother. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm feeling. But yeah, no, great people, great family. What they were able to do. It's funny too, because, just a little hip hop history fact. A lot of people think like, Milk D got, is a one-hit wonder. And okay, Top Billin' is one of the most sampled songs in hip hop history. I mean, you just go check, at so many things, even Otis, the way he says, yeah, it's chilling, Jay is chilling. I mean, that's a cut right there. to 50 to marry to just a tremendous amount. But even like that audio too was big, but for more so what he done as a producer. Even as like Eamon. I don't know if anybody remembers the kid. Some people called him Eamon or Eamon. He had that big song like "Fuck It, I Don't Want You Back." It was humongous years ago. He's from Staten Island. I don't know if anybody remembers it, but it was a humongous hit. And he, executive produced that whole album. So, there's a lot of fun facts with that family, man.
Oh, yeah. That First Priority was that was a great label. Yep.
Yeah, early on, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But they made some noise, made some traction, so. But yeah, hopefully when, he gets older, he's able to. It's funny too, because sometimes I say to myself, a lot of people think about this, we're older, we're getting older. Even, I don't know how old you are, Manny, but even EFN, it's like I look at my daughter, I'm like, all the connections I grew up with her, and we did them. Like I would have her on like, front row seats, floor seats, or suites, or different people. And I say now my son comes, he would appreciate it more, because my daughter was like, I don't care to go to the Giant Gate. I don't care to go here. But my son probably going to go crazy for it. I'm like, damn, I still hope I have all these people around, because we're all getting older. Everybody's going to be, retired. So it's like, I worry about that. Not just for hookups, that's why I'm glad I'm still a young father. Like, I took my before my daughter went to college, wanted to ease her mind, and I took her to Mexico, and we went on a trip, and I'll never forget, I was at the customs, and I showed them our passport, and we were heading, and they said, "Oh, you're going to you guys are on a honeymoon?" And I'm like, "Nah, man, that's my daughter."
Oh shit!
And,
Awkward.
yeah, real awkward. And I was like, but it's good, I'm a young father, so it's like, I give shouts and blessings to anybody who wants to be a father, but I do worry about age. I always do numbers. Okay, so when I'm 60, he'll be this. When I'm 50, I'll still be this. But it's. I feel like if you wait for the perfect moment, you'll never have it. You know what I mean?
So is this it, or are you thinking about more, or are you interested in having more kids?
Man, stop putting shit into that stratosphere, man. Stop putting shit
Hey,
into the stratosphere.
you just finished saying you're a young father.
Definitely got the energy for it.
I like to say for now, yes, but you never know. I've had talks. I love my daughter telling me, like, you got another kid, I'm not talking to you. And I was like, oh shit, man. But sometimes I see like my son, and I'm like, damn, man, he's all, even though he has an older daughter, sister. It's like sometimes like he's like a single, like an only kid,
right.
Because they don't live together, and she's in college, and so I don't know. Sometimes I think it's for the kids. It's great for them to have somebody. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna leave that as I don't know, man.
And for those
part two of the
yeah, well, you know what? Yeah, we'll have you back when the next child is born. How about that?
Comes on next month and shit.
And for those who don't know, Pete, he's got a great podcast, Premium Pete Show. He's been he was a longtime member of the whole Combat Jack crew, sneaker culture purveyor, and all around good guy. Got his hands in a lot of different things.
Pete, where can
food guy for sure. Food guy, don't forget that.
Oh yeah, food. Yeah, you and Bun have the food.
Well, we got to eat
site,
this.
Right? Yep.
Yeah, we have the food site, food. And plus I work with a lot of food companies. I work with a lot of startups.
Nice.
So I'm doing it. Now, what do you say? Where could what?
Now, I was gonna say, where can the people catch you? Where do you, because I know you're heavy on Twitter, but where can people catch you and get in touch with you?
Man, fuck, how about this? Because it's this type of show. Well, first of all, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, all social platforms at Premium Pete. But because I really, really appreciate what you guys are doing, if there's a fellow father listening to this, or even mom, or that is going through it, that could be, it's separated, it's a weekend dad that's, confused, maybe needs some advice or anything, man. Just email me, thepremiumpeteshow@gmail.com. That's thepremiumpeteshow@gmail.com. Email me, man. I'll definitely, just mention that you heard me on Father's podcast, and I definitely. I mean, look, if I can't help somebody, then what did I go through those times for? I always say this: sometimes people need to experience their own stuff, but if you can help them get down that road a little bit easier, then you've done a good job.
Absolutely.
Well, Pete, anytime you want to come back and chop it up, man, we're happy to have you, man.
Yep.
And we appreciate
For sure,
appreciate it.
Thank you,
For
brother.
sure, man. Appreciate y'all, man. Keep
All
on
right,
doing,
man.
keep on
Appreciate
doing
it.
the good things for the fathers, man.
Word
Peace
Yes,
up.
out.
sir. All right, y'all. Later.
Peace.
Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the bell.